Hi there, welcome to another quick tip video. Today we're discussing sidechaining. Sidechaining involves taking the signal from one track, typically a kick or a snare, and sending it to a dynamics processor over the top of another track. So it could be a compressor over a synth track. So we're going to use a kick signal to trigger the compressor, which is going to give us a really rhythmical, pulsing type of push-pull sound. It's confusing, but let's start by loading up Groove Agent SE and just get some drums or some sort of pattern going that we can use to trigger this synth sound. Once Groove Agent SE is loaded up, I can right mouse click on the beat agent and load a kit with patterns. This will show me all of the factory content and any instrument sets I might have purchased. I'm going to go with Neuro Mindset and just load up a patch to start with. Every preset contains different drum hits, which you can use to create your own grooves. Or you can go over to the pattern menu and just hold down on a pad, which will trigger a pattern. All you need to do then is find the right tempo and go back and find the right groove. Once you've got the groove, just simply hold down with your mouse and drag and drop it up into the project window. So we've just created a MIDI file or a MIDI loop out in our project window. We can easily copy and paste this by picking up in the middle right hand section of the event and dragging it to the right. That's a nice contrasting groove, which I'll use as a second segment to my song. So I'll drag and drop it up and copy and paste it. So we've got our groove, but we need to create an instrument track, which the groove is going to affect. I'm a huge fan of Padshop. There's not very many good granular synthesizers around. Now, a granular synthesizer takes a sound like this, and at the twist of a knob, turns it into this. Basically, we're changing the trigger point within the sample. You don't need to be an expert on granular synthesis. By all means, play around with it, but you can always load up a preset. I'm going with the Guardian Angel preset. Now this preset has a very slow attack on it, so I'm going to lower the attack. So as soon as I press a note, immediately I'm going to hear that note sound. It's important for me because there was almost a fade into these chords, which would mean that the compressor would have a lot less of an effect. So I'm just going to record a chord progression and see what happens. And at the moment it's a very sustained pad sound, but we're going to change that as soon as we introduce the kick drum to a compressor over the top of this pad sound. That's just going to add a lot more rhythm to the track. So far we have two different drum patterns, and we've used Padshop to come up with a nice pad type intro, but I want to use Retrologue 2 to come up with an analog emulation. I'm looking for something with a lot more texture, but it's not too distorted. That's pretty cool. I think that'll work, so I'm just going to give this a go in the track. I might just drop the volume a little bit. That's some nice colour. Put some filter sweeps in. This Retrologue 2 sound is great in the track, but something's clashing in the low end. I think it's clashing with the Groove Agent SE pad. Yeah, that's the one there. So I'll just mute that by clicking on the M button. Now I need to go and find the core components of my groove. The kick and the two clap pads are sticking out to me as being important. So let's first select the kick, go up to amp, and then select or assign an output. The kick is now coming through its own individual output, which means we can send the signal to an effects processor on one of the synth tracks. I'm repeating the same process for both of the clap pads, except I'm sending them to output number 3. So now we've got the kick coming through output 2, the clap coming through output 3, and the rest of the drum kit is coming through the stereo output. The next step is to go and turn on individual outputs in the VST instrument rack. I'm going to activate individual outputs by going to the output icon on the right hand side of VST Instruments and simply clicking in the circle on the left hand side of the tracks that I want to be activated. Now when I open my mix console, I can see these tracks inside of my mixer. Assigning individual outputs will bypass the master effects inside of Groove Edge and SE4, so it's important to just quickly check the balance to make sure nothing's peaking. We've got the kick and the two claps coming through individual outputs, and we've got our two synth parts. So now we need to start working with the signal chain. So I'm searching for a compressor, and I've got the Steinberg compressor here. I'm going to work with a very low threshold because I really want this compressor to be pushing and pulling the Padshop sound. The other thing that's important to have is a fast attack, so the compressor is affecting it straight away. Let's activate the sidechain button, and as soon as we do that, we go to our kick track, and that sidechain will be visible in our sends. So we can go down and select that send, and then turn the send on, and now let's solo the kick and solo Padshop. I'd suggest turning auto makeup off and just adjusting the makeup so that your track is not clipping. Okay, there's a big difference. Before we had a sustained pad, and now you can see that kick is activating the compressor, which is giving us that unique push-pull type of feel. Once you've set up one sidechain, it's easy to apply that to other channels. Simply hold down Alt, drag and drop it over to a new insert, and then go and find that send and turn it on. Now let's wait for the second synth part to kick in. You can hear that push and pull going on. So every time the claps are sounding, the compressor is actually kicking in and compressing against the synth part. Sidechaining is a vital ingredient in electronic music. And it's really easy to do inside of Cubase